very excited because I am just coming off of the Rockets winning the playoffs, advancing to the semifinals. Uh, Being from Houston, very excited, very happy right now. And to celebrate this and to kind of take advantage of the unusually good mood I'm in, we're going to visit with one of my favorite people. We're going to visit with Glenn Beck. Now, y'all know Glenn. He was, of course, a Fox News contributor where he established himself as one of the most unstable people in the pundit sphere. There he is in front of one of his famous chalkboards. Yeah, Glenn Beck rose to fame exploiting the worst impulses of the American populace: the paranoia, the fear of progress, the fear of racial tensions. He exploited every um, conspiracy theory surrounding Barack Obama's presidency, surrounding that with theatrics and spectacle that turned any attempt of honest discourse into uh, into a show, into some kind of circus that did nothing but continue to pervert our understanding of the American political debates, right? Long-winded way of saying, don't like the guy, don't care for the guy, but taken on his own terms, I think Glenn Beck is one of the most amusing pundits to come out of American politics. Definitely post millennium. He is one of the most. I mean, he's a great showman. I mean, that's why he rose to prominence. He is a fantastic showman. Um, I don't think he was intentionally comedic, but in his own way, man, he gave Jon Stewart a run for his money. This man was hysterical. I mean, look at this little chalkboard here. You got Obama, then what is that? Cloward and pervert. You got a little line here from Obama to Bill Ayers. Oh, it's a tree. Yeah, like Obama's the head of the tree. Then on one of the branches is Bill Ayers, and then you got these people over here, and then at the roots are Woodrow Wilson and Che Guevara, two men who were very much alike in their politics. Oh man, but we're going to do something really interesting. We're going. Oh, I'm getting a message. All right. Let's see here. We're going to talk about Glenn Beck post Fox News because he's had a very interesting career after he left Fox News. I cannot remember if he was fired or he quit. I think he was only with Fox for a couple of years, really, like basically the first term of the Obama administration. And afterwards, he totally rebranded himself. If we just take out Chalkboard, we get a very different Glenn Beck. Look, he's wearing glasses. He's got this silver fox thing going on. He's got that nice little pleasant smile. He went from weird uncle to sweet grandpa just like that. Because the original Glenn Beck that you saw on television was a character. I don't know if this Glenn is any closer to the real Glenn, right? But it is definitely more presentable. It is definitely more appealing to centrists and moderates. And something that was very important to his post Fox brand, you could say, is that he did not support Donald Trump, right? He did not support Trump in the primaries, and he said that he would not vote for him. He wanted anybody else but Trump. He was a never Trumper, you know? I don't know if he eventually bit the bullet and voted for Trump, because he certainly was no Hillary supporter, but it got to the point where Glenn Beck was such a never Trumper that he was actually doing business with people like Samantha Bee. Glenn Beck had moved so much to the middle, at least in terms of appearances and appeal, that he appeared with a left-wing figure. I say left-wing, a liberal figure like Samantha Bee. And that has apparently changed for Glenn. His opinion on Trump as a man completely devoid of principle and character has changed. And there was a whole brand of conservatives back in 2016 that I would like to talk about. The supposed never Trumpers who were clearly anti-Trump because they didn't think that Trump would be conservative enough. They didn't say that, but people like Ben Shapiro have gone from hating him to loving him, defending him against the most obvious problems, right? Just because he has governed more conservatively, definitely more right wing. And for all of Glenn Beck's talk about being, rational and civil in his discourse, it did not take much for him to start supporting Trump. And we're going to watch a video he just published where he talks about it. President Trump, I misjudged you in 2016. We're going to watch Glenn Beck completely change his position on Donald Trump. And let's make some predictions. I am guessing that it will have something to do with the tax bill. Certainly a Republican dream, that 2017 tax bill. I'm sure Trump's hawkishness, like assassinating that one Iranian leader. I'm sure something like that appeals to good old Glenn over there. Just all the right-wing shit, all the corporatist conservatism shit. But I don't want to put words in the man's mouth. Let's hear it from Glenn himself.
Pat, what'd you think of the convention and the speech last night?
Loved the speech last night.
Yeah.
Loved it. And, as soon as I was watching on Fox last night for the first time, and as soon as the speech ended, Chris Wallace and others started tearing him apart because I guess it wasn't loud enough for them or wasn't rally.
I was glad.
I was glad. I liked his tone.
Yeah, when the audience, they did it once, they're like, woo.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, stop that.
Right.
Stop that.
And I think this was a definite outreach to independents. He's already got the base secure.
Oh my
okay,
gosh.
so let's show the independents that they've got a comfortable place where, he's not insane. He's not out of control.
Not Donald Trump. Not Donald Trump. I mean, all of the things he said about injecting bleach and wanting to take out a hurricane with a nuclear weapon. All of that stuff gets washed away once you just make a speech that is, in the most minimal sense, presidential. If you just adopt that slightly, more kind of stereotypically political tone, all sins are forgiven. All sins. Even as you mishandle a pandemic which leads to the deaths of almost 200,000 people.
Not what you think he is.
He's not what you've been told he is. That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
And I think he accomplished that really well last night.
So I felt really guilty about one thing in particular. I have no problem speaking out about the president's policies, and I have no problem saying in 2016, I don't think he's going to do any of those things because I didn't think he would. He had no record of actually believing any of these things. And I said it, and I said at the time, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. And I have admitted that long ago as he started to fulfill those promises. I was shocked by a lot of them. But last night, all I could think of was when he called.
So Glenn is going to talk about the promises that Trump kept as opposed to the promises that Trump not only didn't keep, he completely flipped on, right? I mean, he said he was going to drain the swamp. How many members of his administration and his circle have been arrested, right? How many of these people are corporatists, elitists with conflicts of interest, gross contrast, trying to speak right now, gross conflicts of interest, uh, and we're not even talking about people who are just members of his family. I mean, imagine Barack Obama handing off peace in the Middle East and handling whatever the hell, all of these different tasks, handing off all of them to his son-in-law. Giving an office in the White House to his daughter, who was in no way an official public figure, a person holding public office, right? Imagine if Barack Obama did that, right? So Glenn is going to focus on the things that he feels Trump actually did deliver on, rather than the stuff that not only did he not, he could not have lied more about, or at least been more wrong about in his promise.
Called me when my dad died. Do you remember what I said afterwards? Said
No.
he called me because he had heard my dad died, because we had to leave the hotel. I was staying at a Trump hotel. And he talked to me about my dad, and I hung up the phone and I said, he is running for president. And I attributed the entire phone call to politics. And in watching this week, I think he is. I think he does not care about what he says about people in person. I mean, on stage or whatever. He will call you anything and say anything. He does not care. But I think he is publicly like that. And I am afraid I have misjudged him. I think privately, the thing with Alice Johnson, all of the stories that came out this week from people.
Okay, wow. So we're making the case that how a politician conducts themselves privately is more important and speaks more to their character than how they conduct themselves publicly. I mean, Trump is the president. He has the largest platform, the largest influence of anybody in the entire world. The leader of the free world. That's what you guys call him. And he uses that platform to spread lies, insult people, not on policy, not on ideology, on pure slander. He uses that platform to ridicule senators for having been captured in war and being tortured. That's what Trump uses his platform for publicly. If he's a nice guy behind the scenes and he can't actually bring himself to showcase that in his actual political persona, I mean, he could be whatever behind the scenes. He could either be the nicest guy or he could be an even worse asshole. All that matters here is how he uses his presidential influence, right? That's all that should matter to you guys. Barack Obama, what? He wasn't a nice, cordial man, a nice, decent man. Joe Biden isn't a decent man. What the hell? And they're actually decent in their political personas, in their wielding of political influence. And I'm not saying either of these guys are perfect. I mean, if you know anything about their record, far from it. But if we're just talking about being decent as a person while holding office, and what really reflects that, what measures that, I mean, Barack Obama beats out Donald Trump in both, his private life and his political life.
People who were not political. They didn't know Donald Trump. I think one of the most important things about the two conventions was, one, you had a guy in office for 47 years who now says he's going to do these things. And they had a bunch of people say, look, I've known him for a long time and he's going to do those things. Okay. And they're asking you on Biden, trust me, I know him.
This is a really weird tactic to me. Biden was I think he was a congressman first, right? and then a senator, and then a vice president. Like he didn't accomplish anything? Like he didn't do anything during that time? I mean, if you lump in Obama's successes like with Biden, if Obama's record is Biden's record, he accomplished a lot. He is responsible for one of the most major healthcare reforms that this country has ever seen, right? So they're using the fact that he has been in office for so long and they're claiming that he hasn't done anything. I mean, the lefts will criticize Biden's record, but they're not going to pretend like he didn't do anything in his time there. And also, just being the president versus being a congressman or a senator is different. You wield different power and different influence. So that's going to be like a favorite tactic of the right moving forward. It's totally baseless. If you want to criticize Biden's record, please feel free to do so because we have to have an honest discussion about who our candidates are. But let's actually be honest that they have a record.
The people that were speaking out about Donald Trump were the exact opposite. I didn't know him. I don't really know him. But look at what he did. And I think it just rang true to me. And I felt so bad about what I said, how I said things in 2016. And I've been feeling this way for a couple of days during this convention. And I just feel like I need to apologize to his children because I can't imagine. I mean, I just had Donald Trump Jr. on with us, and I can't imagine. He acted like we were old friends. I can't imagine they didn't have several conversations about me at the dinner table on some of the things that I said. And I really regret it because I do think publicly, Twitter and everything else, I think the guy is out of control and doesn't care, enjoys it. But I think privately, he's a different guy because his children love him. And I don't believe, like, for example, Ivanka is a psychopath. And how is it Ivanka loves him and all of his children love him as much as they do if he's a psychopath?
So we're getting into some weird territory here. I'm not really comfortable arguing about, the relationship that children have with their parents here in a public platform. I could bring up some stories that have been said about the Trump family. Some stories have come out. I could bring up the fact that it looks like Donald Jr. might have been, that's not a good story noise. He might have been doing some of that backstage at the RNC. Could bring that up, but I won't. Although I guess if I did, all I would have to do is give Glenn a call and talk to him politely, and then any baseless things I say in public wouldn't matter anymore. Yeah, but just to be clear here, right? Because your father is an asshole, because your father is terrible, does not mean that you will have an outwardly terrible relationship with them. It can be really complicated and lead to some very Stockholm tendencies. I'm not saying that's what's going on necessarily, right? But let's be clear that no matter how they talk about him in public, how they conduct themselves privately, we do not know, and we have evidence that they do not have a great relationship with their father. Whatever. This should not even matter in terms of having Donald Trump be president. This should not matter. We should not care. I mean, we should care to the most minor extent. It should be second to policy at the very least, how he is with his kids. How his kids feel about him.
In real life, he's not.
No,
he's not.
I don't think we ever said he was a psychopath.
No, I know, but people think he is because he just doesn't seem like he cares.
Yeah.
He'll say anything, and it looks like he doesn't care. I don't think
know
that's
that we said anything wrong during the campaign, frankly. We disagreed with him on policy, mostly. And because his track record was not one of a conservative.
Correct. And if I would have left it at politics,
I mean, it's not that he says anything; it's that he's willing to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, if he just said that he was going to impose a Muslim ban, that'd be one thing. But then he actually tried to do it, and he kind of fucked things up for a lot of people. If he just said that he was going to put kids in cages at the border and separate them from their families, okay, that'd be one thing. But then he did it, and several children have. I can't even keep track of the kids who have died at these camps. I can't. If he just said this shit, that'd be abhorrent. But the fact that he does things without repentance, yes, that is the behavior of a psychopath, at least a fascist.
Think I would have been fine because I've already said I was wrong, and I said I would say I was wrong. But I really went after his character, and he can be targeted with his character, and I think that's fair. But I went after his character personally, and I think I was really wrong on the level of, I think when it's personal and he's involved one-on-one, he does care.
Oh, I think he does care. Yeah. And
That's definitely the messaging I think that they wanted to get through.
Yeah, and it worked. And because it felt real. None of this felt staged or phony or...
Not at all.
None of it seemed like, okay, we're reaching out to the black people again. It didn't feel that way.
No, because
it was.
Oh, it didn't? Okay. Sure. I mean, if it didn't feel that way to you, okay. Man, if Mike Pence calling black citizens our African American neighbors, I know this is Mike Pence's speech, but come on, there's a coordinated messaging going on here, so I think you do have to talk about several people's speeches to give context to Trump's. Okay, yeah, and bringing out Herschel Walker, like, what influence should Herschel Walker have on this election? None. You guys hate celebrities. You think they should stay out of politics. But if there is an athlete out there who can make Trump seem a little less racist, I don't hear as many complaints.
There's black people who were saying, look, I love this guy.
Right.
And this guy is going to take us to the next level. The Democrats haven't.
Yeah.
And like he said last night, I've done more for blacks in 3 years than Joe Biden's done in 47.
Yeah.
And it's true by a lot. It's true.
It is. I mean, when you saw, I didn't know about the funding of the black colleges. I just didn't know all of the things. Did you watch it from the beginning?
Good list of stuff. His speech?
No. The whole convention last night?
Most of it. I fell asleep at one point.
All right. So I started watching it from the beginning, and I was just watching the raw AP feed. And so I didn't hear any of the commentary, and I saw everything that was on stage. They opened up with a couple of people.
Okay. This will be interesting. Joe Biden record race. That feels kind of icky to type in, but now record on race. Okay. Now, if they're talking about busing, I mean, yeah, there's stuff to criticize for Trump there. But while Joe Biden was opposing busing, Donald Trump was being sued by the Nixon administration for racial discrimination in his housing projects. So, okay. Well, that was short. What? You can't do that. Give me a real background here, a real record. Yeah, I mean, no doubt that Joe Biden is not like MLK or something. I love this picture of him. Oh. Yeah. Ooh. Alright, guys. Realize I'm not making the best case for myself here. What does that mean more punitive? Oh yeah, the crime bill. Alright, so if Donald Trump has done more for black Americans here than Joe Biden, it's not for effort on Trump's part. Unfortunately, Joe Biden does have an extremely problematic record. The man might have played a leading role in opposing busing, but he was ultimately responding to mobilized majoritarian opinion. What? Okay, I don't know if this article was an attack on Biden. I mean, yeah, yeah, problematic, problematic for sure. Let's swap that out though for Joe Biden, uh, Donald Trump. And now keep in mind, Joe Biden has been around since segregation was a thing. Trump has been politically active since 2016. Well, you're not going to take me to the actual thing? Oh, birtherism. I forgot about that. Yeah. While unfortunately Joe Biden said that Barack Obama was like one of the first eloquent African American politicians to come around, at least he didn't accuse him of not being an American. Yeah. All right, guys. I hope that we can all agree on at least Trump's record. Biden's record does warrant a lot of discussion. So if there is something I'm willing to understand Glenn Beck on, right? Um, I can understand the frustration that Biden is heralded as a champion of, you know, racial equality when he does have a problematic record. So, willing to meet you there on the middle, Glenn. Let's meet and shake hands like you did with Samantha Bee, because I am not happy about Biden's record. But moving forward, which candidate is more likely to send in the National Guard to attack protesters and stuff them in unmarked vans? Which of them is more likely to actually institute police reform of any kind? It is Joe Biden. So moving forward, he's definitely going to be more progressive on race issues. Yes, he has not been a champion of the cause, and I do think a lot of his popularity here is attributable to being the vice president to Barack Obama. Um, so yeah, I'm willing to definitely concede that Biden's record is problematic, but that doesn't make Trump's record better.
Both African Americans. One was like, look, I grew up in really a bad section of town. I never even thought about a Republican. And he now works for the president and was so full of joy. It was an amazing testimony. Then this woman in Houston who said, 2 years ago, I was homeless.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yes, I
Was
did
that
see
powerful?
that. Very
And the way
powerful.
she ended it and saying, "Look, don't let anyone tell
She
you
was
you
great.
can't do it.
Yeah, she was great.
I'm closing on a new house at the end of the month."
Yeah.
I mean, it was great.
And it was because of one of his programs.
Right.
And the other thing I thought was great was that montage they did of actual people who have changed from Democrat to Republican.
Yeah.
And especially the Democratic Socialist.
Oh, my
Who
gosh.
said she's going to vote for Trump this time. That was powerful, too.
And the
Wow.
skinny white kid with the big holes
with
in
the
his
hole-
ears.
yes, yeah.
He would not be pegged as a Republican
No.
ever.
No.
And he was like, I never voted for a Republican, but I was living in my apartment, I think in New York, and he said, I was talking to this neighbor who is black, and I said, what do you do or whatever, and she said, I'm in the system, and he said, I just realized everything that I thought I was for.
Well, if we're talking about, switching parties here, I mean, the Democrats had their own montage about that. Colin Powell, John Kasich, both said that they would be voting against Trump for reasons I think much more actually substantive to this upcoming election. I mean, what programs are they talking about? The programs, are they talking about the opportunity zones, uh, or is it, or is this the woman that Trump pardoned? I mean, Obama pardoned many non non-violent drug offenders, and while he couldn't completely reverse the war on drugs, Trump is making no effort to de-escalate that. Right? Not in policy.
Or traps people. It just traps them.
You know, it was. Did you guys see the Richard Grinnell thing?
Yes.
I think it was last night.
Yeah.
Or excuse me,
Night
2 nights
before.
ago. Yeah. Where he was basically making the case as Donald Trump is the most pro-gay rights president ever. And it's interesting. I mean, we've been talking about that since the beginning. He's always been kind of friendly to gay rights, I think.
And the only one to ever be elected in favor of gay marriage.
Yeah, but it was a power. It wasn't like they're reaching out to these.
Okay, this pisses me off. That is a reflection of the changing of our times. Right? I mean, Trump coming from New York was probably more leaning towards that, but he is not the president who presided over the national legalization of gay marriage. Hardly. And oh, by the way, he's if we're talking about the LGBT community, he is the president who famously tweeted that transgendered people would not be allowed in the military. And actually, Trump's record on transgender people is, and I know this, it is not great. Why isn't it searching? Okay. Yeah, the opposition to the Equality Act. Yeah, he opposed the Equality Act. He appointed anti-LGBT judges, supported employment discrimination against the LGBT. Wait, did he actually ban them? No, I thought he was just saying that. Point is, definitely not a progressive on those terms at all, and definitely distinguishable from Biden and how bad he is when it comes to LGBT rights.
Groups, and like they're not all consistent. You know, like this bashing of the 1994 crime bill, which is a very standard thing now that Republicans are doing, was something wildly supported by Republicans at the time. Being tough on crime law, it was a law and order bill, and now at the same time he's making this case for law and order. He's also kind of making a case against the crime bill because Biden voted for it. It's an interesting thing to try to pull off. I think the same thing goes with they did it with gay voters. I thought very well when you outline.
Well, see, that's the other thing, right? And I'm glad they brought this up. They have two narratives here: that Joe Biden does not believe in law and order, that he's controlled by Antifa, that he's controlled by the far left, that he wants to completely defund the police. That's one Joe Biden. And here they are admitting that Joe Biden voted for a infamously harsh law and order bill. It's a bill that pisses me off. Unfortunately, more progressives voted for that bill than we realize. Bernie Sanders actually voted for that bill. I'm kind of amazed that was never brought up to him. But we are going to have to make this distinction here, right? Is Biden a racist who wants to throw black people in jail, or is he does he hate the police and completely wants to abolish the concept of law and order, right? This is something you guys are going to have to figure out.
Everything that he has done and has supported over the years, there's a very important, I think, successful outreach to gay voters who would not normally consider a Republican.
Well, I think you can talk about it because you are the gay character on the show.
I'm like a character, right? This was the most important part that you mentioned to me.
But I think the thing is the most important thing is that I don't know anybody who had a problem with any of that stuff. I don't know
Yeah,
a single
I don't.
conservative that this was the true representation of the Republican
Did
Party.
anybody say, hey, Richard Grinnell shouldn't be speaking? He's gay.
No,
Nobody
but,
said that.
the interesting dynamic as a party, just as an observer here, right, is that all the things that Grinnell was hitting Biden on were things overwhelmingly supported by Republicans at the time.
So, but here
They were overwhelmed.
right.
Like they were saying, like, oh, he was really, Joe Biden was really late to gay marriage.
Okay, so wait a
was
minute,
one of the
but
arguments.
there's a difference.
Now, I understand that as an outreach political tactic.
Right.
It is an look.
No, but-
parties
but
are.
It's different. I think you're missing something. What you're missing is we weren't talking about gay marriage last night. This convention was not about policies. It was about the human and American heart. We can disagree on policies.
Oh, it's about policy. It's not about policies. My bad. My bad. It is not about policies. Let's bring down the mic levels here. Did you hear that, y'all? It is not about policies. Oh my God, I'm being joined by 2 viewers. Oh my God. That deserves an OMG. Right, so. Damn, y'all. I don't even know what to say about that. Okay, it is one thing to say nice things, and this is something the Republicans criticized the Democrats for with the DNC. Sometimes fairly, sometimes not fairly. The DNC was, by and large, more substantive, but to be fair to the Democrats, democracy itself is kind of at stake. So there's a kind of a broad thing we're trying to talk about here. Democracy, American lives, our entire economic system, right? There's a lot to go into. That being said, I could have used more policy, but it was there. And now Glenn Beck is saying that he doesn't even care about the policy from Trump. All he needs is for some, black people, gay people to come out and say, actually, Trump is better for, this than Joe Biden. Right? And I admit Joe Biden has a complicated record, but moving forward, does that mean that he will actually be worse for these causes than Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump has continually been lacking behind Joe Biden. And the thing is, this is something I brought up with 2016. Donald Trump doesn't have a political record to compare. So, yeah, he has that advantage, but we know what he was doing in his private life. We know what he was saying. We know that he called for the execution of the Central Park Five, right? And he refused to apologize once DNA evidence exonerated them. So, I will admit, Joe Biden is not great, and I wouldn't blame you for not thinking he's great, but please don't think that they're the same. Please, dear God. This is the tactic they will always try to pull because they can't convince you that Donald Trump is great. They can only tear down the other guy. Joe Biden actually has policies I agree with. He actually has a vision for America that, you know what? Fuck it. As a progressive, yeah, I can get behind that. The public option, yes, I can get behind that. Donald Trump doesn't have any of these things. And Glenn Beck knows it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be talking about phone calls he had with Donald Trump and the nice things that, the things he liked that Trump said at his speech at the RNC.
But we don't hate each other.
Yeah, and that's one thing I think the bar has been set low for Trump because of how evil he's treated in the media all the time. He's the worst guy ever. He's a racist. He hates gays. He hates Jews. He hates everybody. So just showing that the guy legitimately cares about people and has empathy for people and has treated people nicely and has people like Richard Grinnell, who he's supposedly supposed to hate, who he's been elevated to roles never achieved by any gay person in history in the United States, at least outwardly.
Right.
That is an important message, I think, to get out to people. So,
yeah. There was no way you could walk away if you watched this convention and listened. There is no way you could walk away and say that is a racist guy, a racist party, a gay bashing, gay hating.
Whoa. Are we talking about the man or the party here? I mean, if we're talking about the party, we are really opening up a can of worms. But getting to Trump, right? I mean, the DNC. Fuck, why do I keep saying the DNC? The point of a party convention is to outline the platform moving forward. But of course, the GOP did not outline a platform. Instead, it is just the party of Trump. It's going to be the election of Trump, a referendum on Trump. And with that, it's going to be hard to actually substantively talk about their ideas. But we can talk about their record. We can talk about Donald Trump. We can talk about, yes, the fact that he funded, what were those schools? Trump funded UB. What are those called? The black colleges, as Glenn here put it. We can talk about that, or we can talk about his history of racial discrimination in his housing. We can talk about all of the measures he's taken against the LGBTQ. We can talk about the fact that he has filled his administration with xenophobes, with anti-Semites, with racists. We can talk about the kids in the cages. I assume everybody's bored with the kids in the cages thing by now because they've heard it so often. Yeah, it's exhausting. Imagine actually living that. Imagine how exhausting that is. We can talk about all this. We can talk about him claiming that Muslims celebrated 9/11 on the streets, that a crowd of Muslims celebrated as the Twin Towers fell. You remember that? Yeah, that was 2016 Trump. That feels so long ago. And that actually somehow feels like a simpler time. So are we talking about just the stuff Donald Trump said that one night versus his entire lifetime of saying the worst things about minority groups or people of other backgrounds and ethnicities? What are we comparing here? What has changed other than Trump is worried about the polls and he wants to seem a little bit more presidential?
Homosexual, xenophobic party. There's no way you could walk away
unless you
and
just didn't believe it. Which, by the way, a lot of people, you watch the mainstream media reaction to it, and it's just so predictable. They were bringing out look, yes, he says this, this, and this, but look, even big reporters were doing it after this. I think that particularly the one with Grinnell, for whatever reason, really got under the skin of reporters who don't want to, they don't want to lose that ground. They don't want to lose we're the pro-gay party.
Yes. He says he's for gay rights, but he not only appointed a vice president with a noted history of discrimination against gay people, he himself supported discrimination against gay people. Is that some kind of fake news hack tactic to just point out that what he's saying does not match up to his record? Okay.
Crowd. They don't want to lose we're the only ones that African Americans are allowed to vote for. Those sorts of things are really offensive and get really under the skin of not just the Democrats, but the media in general.
They knew it, and that's why they did it.
Oh, yeah, and they did it well.
That's one of the reasons they did it.
Politically effective, I think.
I love some of the little shots, the little poke 'em with pickle forks things that Trump did during the speech last night that drove them out of their minds.
Oh, yeah.
Out of their minds.
One of the things that drove them out of their minds, and I have no problem as a historian, I hate to say that because I know how the press would react to that, but I read a lot of history. I go to original documents, et cetera, et cetera. So as a quasi-historian, I'm bothered by the precedence of the backdrop being the White House. This was the first time, and I hope it's the last time. If it was not the era of the pandemic, I would have been screaming bloody murder because I don't like that. However, with that being said, remember, this was his third choice as a backdrop.
Yep.
This is not his first. This was his third. Democratic City said, no, not here. Can't have that. Social distancing, all of that. So he's like, okay, I'll do it from where I'm living. It wasn't.
What? Found the worst excuse around. Found the worst excuse around. What? Wow. He breaks historical precedents and violates federal laws, federal ethic laws, uses the White House as a political stage for his own re-election campaign. But it was his third choice. So what was he going to do? What was he going to do? I mean, literally every goddamn place in the country refused to host the RNC. Everywhere. You know, stuff has to matter to you guys. Like, it has to matter to you, Glenn. We're not going to fix anything if nothing actually matters to you. If all you have to say is, well, it was my third choice. If that's all it takes for you to completely reverse your decision, your idea about something that is so important to you, stuff has to matter. We can only have an honest conversation and evaluation of ideas if stuff really matters to you.
Not his first choice.
It wasn't, but then he accentuated it last night just to get under their skin. How many times did he point to the White House to show that he's there?
The time that it was like, you talk about...
Own the libs. Own the libs. Put them in camps. Wait, no. I forgot Trump doesn't do that. Doesn't put people in camps. No, he doesn't. Carry on.
Pickle fork. It was a giant pickle that he took when he took that fork out and said, you know what? They said this, but hey, look where I live.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really good.
You know, it's not that Trump did it that offends me. It's that hacks like you are completely willing to sell out your entire belief system in support of a man whose only political accomplishment really is annoying American citizens that you don't like. All right, guys. Well, that was exhausting, actually. I really didn't even expect... I mean, if they ignored the shit that was wrong, that's one thing. But, no, they just made excuses for him. That's bad. It's really bad. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that stream. Wish I did more. Got to keep it in mind. The Houston Rockets are going to the semifinals. Got to keep that in mind. At least I do, because I live here. So, thanks again, y'all, for watching. Have a good one. Catch you next time.